about satsanga, the first item of 5 methods of devotional service, most recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the development of love of God. Satsanga, and what follows today, the next item in the verse is Krsna-Seva. So, I'm going to explain Krsna-Seva in 4 aspects. And the first aspect is achar. Achar means behavior. Now, you can see that there is a very logical graduation from the previous item, satsanga, to Krsna-Seva over the, it's like a bridge, crosses 2 banks. So the bank on this side is this achar, this side of Krsna-Seva, beginning achar. Mahaprabhu has stated, asat sanga tyage e Vaishnava achar. So, the essence of Vaishnava behavior, how we know who is a Vaishnava, who is a devotee, is he renounces. Tyag means gives up. Asat sanga. We explained that yesterday. There is satsanga, which is association with devotees of the Lord, and asat sanga is the perverted reflection of that. In the material world, people are also associating. Here we have a major city in Europe, Helsinki. So many people crowded together, meeting in their homes, meeting in their workplace, meeting after work in various places of recreation and so on and so forth. So this is called asat. It is illusory, it is unreal association because it is focused on sense gratification, on the temporary pleasures of this body. So I explained yesterday, giving two examples of satsanga to show you the beginning and the culmination, as per that verse, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoya Sadhu Sangha. So the second example was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, their sangha, and how their sangha went right up to the, it's not correct to say limit because there is no limit, but it went to the, as far as anyone will ever be able to understand, into the prema rasa, the nectar of love of God. So this is the ultimate result of satsanga, that by this association with pure devotees, and in that association engaging in the processes of devotional service, particularly these 5 processes that we're discussing, then the nectar of love of Godhead will flow. So the non-devotees there is also seeking nectar in their sangha, but this is not the real thing. This is maya sukha, the illusory happiness of the senses. So, therefore, Krsna-Seva, service to Krishna, it begins to be established when one takes this vrat, this vow, asat sanga tyag. Now I will give up this asat sanga. This is, according to Mahaprabhu, this is the key item of Vaishnava behavior. So what is this asat sanga? So the verse goes on to say, Astri sangi eka asadu Krishna abhakta a. So the second line is identifying 2 kinds of persons who are asat, whose association we should avoid if we want to become servants of Krishna. So Stri Sangha means The general translation of this would be one who is in association with Stri or woman. But then we have to explain this further, because there is association which is Vaidha, and there is association which is Avaidha. So, a Vaidha Stri Sangha, Srila Prabhupada says this is regulated, this is as per the Grihastha Ashram. And then this is not counted as Stri Sangha as per this verse, because Grihastha Ashrama. Ashrama means place of devotional service. So it is natural for a man and woman to come together in a relationship, and that can be nicely accomplished without detriment to one's spiritual well-being if it is done in terms of this ashram, Grihastha Ashram. And that's called Vaidha Stri Sangha. That is approved by Shastra, and those who live in that ashram, they are also Krishna Bhaktas, Krsna-Seva, Sevites, servants of Krishna. So it's not that Stri Sangha that we should be cautious about, but it's the Avaidha Stri Sangha, this, as one can see everywhere, going on, this loose, unregulated mixing for whimsical sense gratification. So this is one kind of asadhu. Asadhu means undisciplined person who's not situated on the spiritual platform. So in association with such asadhu, then danger is just by this type, you see, association. As I was explaining yesterday, it is something that takes place in the heart, really. It's an acceptance in the heart. Sometimes we get questions, devotees, they're going every day on Sankirtan, and they're meeting so many asadhus. And so when they hear this kind of lecture, they start to get nervous. Then the hand goes up, what about all these asadhus I'm meeting? But you see, to really associate, to really have sangha, that is an affair of the heart. So, as we're going to explain in this talk, actually, the motivation of a devotee for reaching out among the populace, going among them, talking to them, is completely different. That will come shortly, towards the end of this talk, what that is about. But in any case, the devotee is not mixing with the asadhus for the purpose of sense gratification. He's not opening his heart up to imbibe their qualities, to mix with them intimately, to know what they're doing and take part in it, to share their taste of sensual pleasures in this world. So this is the real meaning of asatsanga tyaga. One, for the purpose of the mission of Krishna consciousness, yes, may mix with so many people who are uncontrolled. But he does not give them his heart. And Prabhupada used to illustrate this point by telling a story from the Panchatantra. Panchatantra is a collection of lessons. They're practical lessons in life, moral lessons. The idea was that some very unintelligent boy needed to be instructed, and so these stories were told to him. They're like children's stories almost, but they carry an important message. And we know some of these stories in the West, at least. The most famous one is we call it the fox and the grapes, but in the Panchatantra version it's a jackal instead of a fox. That's the only difference. Otherwise the story is the same. So there's another story that Srila Prabhupada used to tell about a monkey and a crocodile. Well, the monkey lived in a tree that was hanging over the river. Sometimes when the river bank is worn away by a tree, sorry, by the water. Then the tree, standing on the bank of the river, its roots, kind of collapse into the water, and it bends. So it was a tree like that, practically hanging over the surface of the river. And the monkey used to live there. And so the crocodile used to come swimming and would just idle there under the tree and talk with the monkey. They were great friends. As long as the monkey was in the tree and the crocodile was in the water, they were great friends. They used to talk and discuss so many things. And they actually became very dear to one another. But the crocodile's wife, back in his cave, she became envious. She was like, "Where do you go every day?" She would say to her husband, "I'm going to meet my good friend, the crocodile. We have such interesting talks." So finally she henpecked. I don't know how a female crocodile will henpeck her crocodile husband, but somehow she did that. And he was persuaded to, promise that whatever she wanted, he will give. And she said, "I want to eat the heart of this monkey." So the crocodile went to see his monkey friend. And they were talking for a while, and then the crocodile said, "My dear monkey, my wife, she's heard so much about you from me. She wants to meet you." And the monkey, he thought, "Oh, okay, why not?" So he jumped down on the crocodile's back, and they went swimming. The crocodile went swimming back to his lair. And on the way, the monkey just asked innocently, "Why does she want to see me? You never talked about her before. Suddenly you're saying she wants to see me. So what for?" The crocodile, because now the monkey's on his back, it's in the middle of the river, he can't get away. And he felt also bad, so he didn't want to tell any lies. So, and this is his friend, so he said, "Honestly, actually she wants to eat your heart. That's why I'm taking you to her." Then the monkey said, "Oh, why didn't you say that at the beginning? I left my heart in the tree." And the crocodile said, "Oh, okay, well then we have to go back, isn't it?" We went back, and the monkey got in the tree and said to the crocodile, "My dear crocodile, this is the end of our friendship. Absolutely. I don't ever want to see you again. We had a nice time, but that's it." So Prabhupada used to tell this story. Don't give your heart to the crocodile. We, in the course of preaching, we have to mix with so many people, but we don't give them our heart. And that's the real meaning of asatsanga tyaga. So anyway, this is one kind of asadhu, the sense gratifier. And then the other kind is Krishna-abhakta. One who is not a devotee of Krishna. Now this, if we consider the two examples that are given, one, the Strisangi, that is your active materialist engaged in all kinds of sense gratificatory affairs. So who could be this other one, who is Krishna-abhakta, not a devotee of Krishna, but distinguished from this Strisangi, who is also not a devotee of Krishna? What is the essential difference? So the Krishna-abhakta is one who is renounced. He is renounced. He's not like the Strisangi, he's not engaged in materialistic affairs. So he may be a jnani, he may be a yogi, he may be a sannyasi of some kind, but not a devotee of Krishna. So that is also to be understood. Someone may be nicely established in renunciation, but if he's not a devotee of Krishna, then he too is a person to whom we should not give our heart. Yesterday I didn't mention this, but in the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's a nice verse about rasa agya and rasa gya. So rasa agya is one who does not have any rasa, any taste for Krishna consciousness. This is abhakta. This is a non-devotee. So this verse declares he may be a jnani, he may be very advanced in scriptural knowledge and some kind of mystic realization. But because he's rasa agya, then he's compared to, in Bengali, kaka, means crow. A crow likes to eat the nimba, the seeds of the neem tree, which are very, very bitter, very harsh tasting. So crows, they like to go into the neem tree and eat these seeds. If we eat these seeds, it's a very unpleasant experience, very heavy. But crow is liking that taste. So this is the impersonalist. This is the dry speculator, because he doesn't know what rasa is. So he goes this difficult path by mental speculation, trying to separate himself from the material energy by this neti process. Not this, not this, not this, not this. And these persons become very wooden-hearted, you see, hard-hearted. So they, just like this Prakashananda Saraswati, who was the leader of the Mayavadis. So he was warning the Brahmanas in Varanasi when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his few disciples to Varanasi, which is a big Mayavadi center. So Prakashananda was the leader, he was the guru, Mayavadi, of that whole Brahmin community. And in those days the Brahmins were afraid, you see. In such a situation they were afraid to take one step that was not authorized by such a great personality. So Prakashananda Saraswati was criticizing Mahaprabhu. He's not a real sannyasi. He's a sentimentalist. Bhavuka. He's come here not studying Vedanta like we are doing, not considering what is Brahman, but he's chanting and dancing. These activities are forbidden for sannyasis. He's doing that. He's doing that in the association of foolish people. So he told all the Brahmanas, don't associate with him. He's not genuine. See? So this was the image that he was trying to give Mahaprabhu. And so one Brahmana was very unhappy and with this, hearing this instruction, he didn't know what to do. So he just went before Mahaprabhu and he was very upset, and he explained this. Prakashananda Saraswati, who is our leader here, has given this order, and I cannot bear it, but I don't know what to do. This is my situation. It's unbearable. I cannot give up your association, but how will I live in this Varanasi with such an order over my head? So that's why Mahaprabhu went to the place of these Mayavadi sannyasis, and that is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. How he changed their attitude and got them all to chant and dance. So this is the point. One who is arasa, rasa agya, who doesn't know what is rasa, then his spiritual process is totally dry. And that is very, very dangerous. There may be some people who can become elevated by this, to some level of realization by this method. But for most it is very, very dangerous situation to come into. Because we are requiring rasa. That is called prayojan. That is the necessity of the living entity. And so, if one also takes to such a dry path, then he'll become very thirsty for rasa, very needy of some sweet experience. And then his senses will drag him suddenly into some embarrassing situation. So on the other side, then those who are rasa, those who know rasa, they're compared to kokil. Kokil is a kind of bird that only eats nice, sweet things. So this is the association we should seek. The devotees who are like kokil, or they're compared to honeybees, like to buzz around the honey at Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So this is the explanation of this. Krsna-Seva. one who is not a devotee of Krishna, even though he is not engaged in materialistic activities. So, practicing achar, why do we do this? This means the regulative principles, all the prescribed activities of devotees. Achar means your personal behavior. So that should be on the standard of spiritual life, like the term brahmachari, brahmachari. So he is acting, his achar is on the platform of Brahma, spirit. So what is this intended to achieve? So then the next point after achar is upachar. And upachar means the service to Krishna, the offerings to Krishna as we see done in the deity worship. But there's a very, very philosophical background to this, and Prabhupada indicated. You see, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is so many verses. If you would run a database search on this one word, Sodasha, which means 16, then you're going to come up with so many verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam that discuss this 16. This is a very, very significant enumeration of the elements of creation. Actually, the specific personal elements of both this body and the Lord's universal form. He accepts, it's described in the Bhagavatam by Suhotra Swami, that he is accepting these 16 principles of material nature when he comes into this universe as the Purusha Avatar, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Then this universal manifestation of 16 items, it becomes his body, so-called material body of the Lord. And similarly, we are dealing with the same 16 in our life. So this is macrocosm, microcosm. This is the cosmic symmetry. And there's much to be learned from this. So this 16 is. This also pertains to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because these 16 are mentioned in the Kali Sattva Upanishad also. The 16 names of Hare Krishna Mahamantra are purifying or eradicating our material involvement, our material attachment to these 16. What are the 16? We have 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, like the eyes and the ears. And we have 5 active senses, like the hand for picking things up and the legs for walking. So that's 10. Then there are 5 kinds of sense objects. That means what we are seeing, what we are hearing. And then the 16th item is the mind. The mind, Bhagavatam says, is the most formidable of all the 16. Why? Because that is where our desires are stored. In the subconscious of the mind, the karna sharira, the causal body, from which the linga sharira is coming out, like fruit from a seed. So all the desires, bija, kama bija, are in this fundamental part of the mind. So that is why the mind is so formidable. So anyway, here we are, we're entangled in these 16 items of creation ourselves. So it's significant that traditionally, when you learn about archana, service to the deity, the items of puja, what is most given is the enumeration of 16 upachars, 16 items to be offered to the Lord. Of course, one can become more ambitious and there are 64 items or even more items. This is like on major festival days when there's grand deity worship like on Janmashtami. Then so many items may be offered. But regularly, you'll find if someone is regularly doing reasonably complete form of deity worship, then 16 items are offered. And these constitute the different elements of creation and our different activities with the senses. They're all being offered to the Lord. So this is a kind of philosophical significance of this upachar. We are engaging our bodies and our minds, our senses, and the sense objects, just like you see when you are watching Arti. You'll see the pujari. He's first of all offering dhup, incense. And what is that? That is gandha. That is the sense of smell is being offered to the Lord. And then deep, lamp. So deep is seen by the eyes. This is rupa, this is form. And then he is offering water. So this is another element of bhuta, mahabhuta, which has the quality of rasa, taste. And then he is offering flower. So flower also is nice looking, nice smelling. And then chamara, air. So you see in this way, the different elements are being offered to the Lord in the course of puja. And in the course of offering, we are also engaging our senses. So this is upachar. Upachar means to worship the Lord, formal deity worship. And this is a continuation of the achar. The difference is that achar is for ourselves. Achar is what we must do in order to become qualified to perform upachar. I remember when I was a new devotee, and they were very, very careful in the temple I joined in Boston about who could go on the altar to do deity worship. They were very strict. The first time, because I got Brahman initiation quite quickly, so I was then invited by the older devotees to come and bathe Lord Jagannath. But at the time I was still a very new devotee, and so early in the morning, so one feels a little tired. So when they were bringing me on the altar and explaining to me what to do, I went like this. I stretched in the presence of Lord Jagannath, just because I felt sort of like dizzy and tired. I couldn't hear what was being said. They were trying to explain, so I thought, I have to stretch, then I'll be more awake. But because I did that, then I was never asked to come on the altar again for a long time. I was considered unqualified. They didn't say that to me, but I could understand. Oh, I made a mistake. I remember one of the older devotees, he even remarked to me when he was there on the altar, and then later, at another time, he just said to me, he said, well, Suhotra, if you were a coward boy, you could do that, but coward boys there, all very relaxed with Krishna. We're not coward boys, so we have to be upacharis, very formal and serious. But this is the natural follow-up of the achar. We practice regulated life so that we become qualified to then approach Krishna and engage our senses in his service. Now, when one is doing deity worship, then one is becoming qualified for the next stage. You see? The next stage. One does deity worship. This deity worship alone, by itself, out of, I don't want to raise any eyebrows, I'm just talking about it like out of context of anything else. The deity worship by itself is, Prabhupada so often said, this is Kanishta platform of devotional service. Now that doesn't mean that in the Hare Krishna temples, those devotees who are doing deity worship are Kanishta Adhikaris or anything like that. But just that activity itself, one who is doing that in this general consciousness of becoming purified by the activities of worship. That can be taken as the Krsna-Adhikari level. But by doing this, he is becoming purified and he is advancing to the next level of devotional of this Krsna-Seva item that we're speaking about today. So we're going from Achar, Upachar, and the next is Prachar, preaching. So from becoming purified, and because this deity worship, it means so many things. It's not just waving a fan in front of the deity, but actually, if you notice all the items of deity worship, like in Pancharatric texts, then it also entails a study of the Shastra, memorization of so many verses and glorification of the deity. And you see on festival days in India, the Brahmanas, when they're doing these special rituals for the deity, how many mantras they're chanting. Purusha Shukta mantra, Stri Shukta, so many. In Mayapur also, Bhakti Vidyapurna Maharaj has established this kind of standard. So those who are learning from him, they know so many Vedic, they learn so many Vedic hymns to chant for the satisfaction of the deity. And they do yajna every day, and they go through a whole cycle, because when one does yajna, one should, the main ahutis, the main offerings, there should be some chanting of maybe Purusha Shukta, but it can be verses from Bhagavad Gita, so they do like cycles like that, making offerings and chanting different verses along with the offerings. So again, this is all upachar, but as one is learning all this, he's becoming trained up for prachar. He's learning so many verses, they're going into the heart and staying there. So, and also Prabhupada, another thing he stressed, if deity worship is not impersonal, anyone coming to the temple, they must be given darshan. This was a rule, that anyone coming to the, they wander into the temple, they don't know what it is. So they should be brought before the deity and they should be given Mahaprasad. This was a rule. So you can see in this very bona fide, very scriptural type of upachar program, then actually the devotees are being trained up for preaching. So then that is the next stage, prachar. And this is, as we know, in this age, this is the Yuga Dharma. This constitutes the Yuga Dharma. Preaching, the chanting of the holy name to every town and every village. This word, you hear this, Pritivichi Atiyati Nagaradi Grant. What is the next line? What is that?
Doesn't it begin with Sarvatra?
Sarvatra yes, but Sarvatra Prachara Hoive Moranam. So you hear the word. Sarvatra Prachara. Prachara. Sarvatra Prachara Hoive Moranam. So in every town and village, Mahaprabhu has predicted the day will come when the preaching prachar of my holy name will be heard. So indeed, this is the fulfillment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So this is also, you see, Krsna-Seva. This is our service to the Lord. And it is, you see how it is unfolding from achar, righteous behavior to spiritual behavior, to deity worship, to preaching. But then there is one more item. And this is called vichar. Vichar means very, very deep deliberation or deep consideration. A deeper realization of the meaning of these activities. And significant, following the prachar, is the vichar that we see in Sri Advaita Charya. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Sri Advaita Charya saw the direction in which the world was going, Loka Gati Deki, when he saw this, in other words, the world is going to hell. People are becoming so rapidly degraded. Then Acharya Karuna Hrida. And then in the heart of Advaita Charya, so much mercy came up. And then Vichara Karena Lokera Kaichi Hitohoi. Then he began to consider very deeply in his heart how he could help these people. So we see the same development. You see the same, following through. If we look at Srila Prabhupada's life pastimes, that he took sannyas to preach. He came to this after he used to say he would have dreams as Grihastha. And actually my point is you can match these four items, achar, upachar, prachar, and vichar. They can, you can see in the ashrams also, the brahmachari ashram, the achar is prominent, and grihasthas are supposed to do deity worship at home, upachar. And then, as Srila Prabhupada showed, as he became older in the grihastha ashram already, he was trying to preach. His endeavor to preach began, and it became stronger and stronger, and then finally he had to take sannyas because his wife was an impediment to his preaching. He didn't really want to take sannyas, but he had this need to preach. He was ordered to do so by his spiritual master, and he was even having dreams of his Guru Maharaj appearing before him and saying, "Come on and preach." So finally he took sannyas. And then he was preaching. He had only to preach. But he was at that time seeing the condition of Indian society. He's trying to distribute his Back to Godhead magazines, which he put together. Such sacrifice, trying to print books, everything very difficult, and also seeing that the people were very, how to say, jaded. They were not responsive to the message of Krishna consciousness. They were sitting and drinking tea and talking their gossip, and probably would come to try to interest, but they were not so inclined. So that is when Prabhupada began to think very deeply about what to do to save these persons. And actually Prabhupada, he explained like this, that he realized that these Indian people, they're following the Western ways. That was the Lokagati at that time. They're following Western habits, Western culture, Western ideas, more and more and more. And that's why they're not interested in the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So then he began to consider the Western world, and he could see that the leading nation of the Western world, whom all the Western countries are following. India is following the Western countries, but the Western countries were following one country, which was the United States. And so then Prabhupada, by his vichar, his deep consideration, he made a plan to go to the United States and preach there and make them, those people, devotees. And in this way, others, all the others in the world, including the Indians, would follow. And that's actually what his strategy worked beautifully. His strategy worked perfectly. With Advaitacharya, of course, his vichara resulted in him doing this very austere worship of Shalagram Shila on the bank of the Ganga, offering Tulsi and Ganga water to Shalagram Shila, and calling to Krishna that you must descend. There's no one but you. Advaitacharya, he is Mahavishnu. He is the Mahapurush. But he was even considering that I cannot do this. Only you, the original Supreme Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. Only you can do this. And this is said to be the reason for Mahaprabhu's appearance. And so in a very parallel way, we see out of Srila Prabhupada's deep consideration, his vichar. Because pratyar, when you go out to preach, then you're confronted with, the reality of this material world. And these people who are so much rooted in Maya and don't want to get out. And you try to preach to them, and you can see very clearly their ideologies and their habits and all of this, their culture. And naturally, this is natural for devotees. You begin to consider, how could this be changed? So out of Prabhupada's vichara came this grand plan, which he executed at great personal sacrifice. His trip, his sea journey by Jaladuta to New York, having heart attack twice, and all of this is well known. The Leela of Srila Prabhupada. So that he finally arrived in New York City and was able to gather mainly from the hippies there. Prabhupada used to say 10th class men. Crazy people. He used to sometimes talk like that. Sometimes he used to say to his disciples, when they would make mistakes, he'd say, what can I do? Your brains are soaked in LSD. But still, he would try to engage them in Krishna service. So, in this way, Prabhupada inspiring these devotees with this preaching mood. And he came back to India with his dancing white elephants, he used to call them. And that was such a sensation in India when Prabhupada came back. When we travel in India, especially on the western side where Prabhupada did tours, in Maharashtra and Bombay area, Gujarat, still people remember Prabhupada's programs there. And there's that one story I really like in a place called Wardha, which is in Maharashtra. And one he was famous as a sadhu. His name was Vinod Bhave. And he was one of the principal followers of Mahatma Gandhi, so-called Mahatma Mohandas Gandhi. So, Gandhi was a spiritual, political figure. He mixed politics and spirituality. He was a politician, but he dressed as a sadhu, espoused personal renunciation. So, he is considered to be the father of independent India. He led the movement to break India free from British rule. But after India became free, then it was as if they had no more need for Gandhi. Because Gandhi was not an industrialist. He did not want to see India become industrialized. He wanted to return to simple village life. But this is the point, as I said, the Indians had become fascinated with Western culture, and even Mahatma Gandhi's own so-called followers like Nehru, they were not interested in instituting Gandhiism in India. So he became irrelevant as soon as India became independent. And actually he was assassinated. He was shot down. He was espousing peace, non-violence, but they killed him. Because they considered his his policies to be totally unrealistic. So Vinod Bhave was a follower of Gandhi, and what he did was he set up an ashram in this place called Varda in Maharashtra. And he was trying to just, in this place, show the rest of India the Gandhian philosophy and practice. But again, nobody was so interested in that. But anyway, he was very old at this time. He'd been able to maintain this ashram, and I think it's still going on after his death. So Prabhupada went there. He was invited by Vinod Bhave with some other sadhus of the Mayavadi type. Were invited to do a Bhagavad Gita Sammelan, a gathering to hear Bhagavad Gita and to discuss Bhagavad Gita, some pravachan lectures on Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada, he went after Vinod Bhave, he had his disciples there. They chanted the whole Gita. That was the opening of the program. They chanted the whole Gita very nicely, all 700 verses. And then after that, because Prabhupada had become so prominent with his Western disciples, he was asked to give the first presentation. And what Prabhupada did, he just had a big kirtan. Just a big kirtan. And everyone was just dancing in ecstasy and faces breaking out in brilliant smiles. Except for the impersonal sadhus. Their faces became black. They were sitting there looking very glumly as everyone was dancing and chanting in ecstasy. And then Srila Prabhupada, he spoke that, very simply, he said, that in India we endeavor for Indian people know what is sadachar. Sadachar means spiritual behavior. So you're all here interested in knowing what is sadachar. This is sadachar. This is the real spiritual behavior. To chant Hare Krishna, this is the Yuga Dharma. So explain like this in a few words, very simply. Then the next speaker was one Mayavadi guru with a long name. Swami Trilokeshwar Nanda Mahatma Vishwarup, something like that. And so he, seeing what Srila Prabhupada did, then he thought he would also make a kirtan, but so he began to clap like this and chant some mantra like Vasudeva Govinda, something like that. It went on and on, different. They were names of Krishna, but jumbled together in such a way that no one could really follow. And he was a flop. He followed Prabhupada and was a total flop. He tried to also get everyone to chant and dance his mantra coming out of whatever Mayavadi Sampradaya he represented, and no one was interested. So here I just told this story to illustrate Prabhupada's grand success. The grand success of his vichar, his deep deliberation. How to make this Krishna consciousness movement successful in the modern world. So these are 4 developments within the item of Krsna-Seva, service to Krishna. And you can see, if you understand these items, how they follow one another, you can see how it culminates in doing first-class service for Krishna. You see, if we can go through achar, proper behavior, personal behavior, and upachar, worshipping the deity nicely, engaging all of our senses in the service of the deity. And then prachar, to preach, and then finally to get some realization how to revolutionize the world with Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada has shown that. And we see this also in Advaita Acharya. He is considered to be like the root of the whole Hare Krishna movement, because he is the one who brought Chaitanya, seeing the condition of the world. So these are 4 items that constitute Krsna-Seva. Of course, we could have discussed Krsna-Seva in a different way. There are specific items given in nectar of devotion for deity worship, but that's rather technical, and not everyone is engaged in deity worship, so if we speak in that way, then perhaps it wouldn't be so as interesting to everyone. Right then, do you have any questions? Yes?
Guru Maharaj, these 4 items of Krsna-Seva, are they following one each other, or can you also jump to each one before actually completing one of the stages? Like, there has been some like very bright ideas of vichar, like in our movement.
Well, Prabhupada said, everyone can do achar, but not everyone can do vichar. That actually requires some realization. And realization requires purification. So, yeah, this is why you see in our movement that there's an organization, there's a leadership of older devotees who practice much longer, and they are understood to have some deeper vision of things. So this is natural. That's not to say that a younger devotee can't also have very nice realizations, but this is, a general pattern. Generally, when devotees are going through like this, I mean, it's obvious. You come in the temple as bhakta, what do they learn? They're learning achar, they're learning what to do and what not to do in their personal life. And after some time, when they take, especially when they take initiation, in particular second initiation, then they're able to do the upachar, specifically the deity worship. Even before that, they may assist in deity worship, contribute in that way to the upachar. And then after that, they may go out for preaching. Of course, Prabhupada stressed preaching so much, so it's often seen that the first thing they do is go out and preach. Go out and sing. He spoke of emergency work also. So yeah, these may be not exactly in order. But this is the traditional, one after the other. Anything else?
Guru Maharaj, can you speak about this, not giving our hearts to non-devotees? That came to about Tapas Prabhu was giving us a seminar about nectar of instruction. He was explaining Prabhupada's vision how our preaching is in one way giving association to non-devotees and by that way making them devotees and like that. So,
yeah, that's giving association, not taking association.
Yeah.
So, this was the point I was saying in the beginning. Well, not giving the heart so that it develops. We are actually associating, but in our direction, giving something when we go out and preach. When one is, like it says about Advaita Charyat, Karuna Hridaya, his heart was full of compassion. So he wanted to bless the living entities, give them something, give them Mahaprabhu's musa. So this is at the back of the preaching activities. This is another way to understand. When we go out and preach, the idea of this is that by the activity, the practice of preaching, confronting the living entities and their unfortunate situation, that also deeper and deeper and deeper compassion will be awakened. We have deeper realizations through this compassion. So this is what devotee endeavors to give. It's a mission of mercy. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Saraswati Maharaj ki
Jai.